George Camel here, co-host of The Ramsey Show, and we're back again with another installment of the Best of The Ramsey Show. If you've never seen a Dave Ramsey rant, you are in for a treat. I could listen to this guy rant about anything. So get ready for some hot takes on student loans, the metaverse, and scummy companies trying to rip people off. Buckle up, Buttercup.
Mark is with us in Boston. Hey, Mark, welcome to The Ramsey Show.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it. How you doing?
Better than I deserve. How can we help?
Yeah, so I'll throw you a little backstory here. I'm currently an undergraduate student, full-time enrolled. I have a full tuition scholarship. I'm also a resident advisor, so I don't pay room and board either. So I actually I net nothing at the end of each semester. Recently, I just bought a car. I have about $10,000 in debt on that. There's obviously a large push from the left pushing for student loan forgiveness. So I was wondering what your thoughts would be on pulling out student loans again and paying off my car with those loans, with student loans, and then possibly getting the chance to have my car loan that is now a student loan forgiven.
So I'm a taxpayer, and I'm supposed to pay off your car with your student loan forgiveness. Don't you think that's immoral?
Yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, it's
yeah, a little bit.
If the opportunity is there, if the government's going to be deciding to start handing out money left and right, why not take the opportunity?
So let me tell you, there was a book out several years ago called Millionaire Next Door by a man named Tom Stanley, who passed away. It came out in 1992. He did a book later called The Millionaire Mind. The Millionaire Next Door, he studied millionaires. The Millionaire Mind, he studied people that had $10 million, decamillionaires. And he looked for the he looked for the correlating statistical points. He was a researcher in people that had $10 million or more. And he found demographic similarities. He found career similarities. And he found 38 statistical points of reference that indicated, they were causal, that indicated that if you had a large number of these, you would have a high indicator that you were heading towards $10 million or more. And he listed them in order of the first one. In other words, number one was the most often occurring, 38 was the least often occurring out of the 38 points. You understand what I'm saying? And let me tell you what number one was. Fanatical levels of integrity. You need to visit that and sit on that. Because when you do not have fanatical levels of integrity, you are missing the number one correlating data point towards building wealth. Versus how much can I scam the American taxpayer out of and get me a free car? Dude, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. So, no, you should not do that.
A really important mentor of mine posed an important question back in my 20s, and the question was this: is integrity something you can sort of have? You can mostly have. And that has just sat inside me for a long, long time. Because I lived some of my life thinking, yeah, I mean, mostly, And here's the thing, Dave, that bill's going to come due for all of us. It's going to come due for all of us.
There's just nobody gets rich scamming the government and the taxpayers.
No.
It's just, you don't get wealthy that way. You don't get wealthy trying to, run a welfare scam.
You bought a $10,000 car.
You don't get wealthy running a unemployment scam. You don't get wealthy scamming hiding your grandpa's assets so you can get a government-funded Medicaid nursing home, which is illegal as crud. It's called welfare fraud.
Yeah.
But people do it every day. And so stealing is not a part of integrity.
Why do you think decamillionaires, what's the correlation there? I don't know a lot of decamillionaires.
The ones that I know anecdotally line up with that. I mean, everybody knows, any group of people, you can put them in a room and there's one,
idiots in every group.
There's
That's right.
There's a jerk, right?
That's right.
There's somebody that doesn't have integrity. So not all decamillionaires do, but there's a high correlation to that. That when they interviewed their wife, when they interviewed their kids, when they interviewed their employees, when they interviewed their competitors in the marketplace, they said, I don't always agree with that guy, but one thing about it, if he says it's raining, you better get your umbrella. If he says he's going to unleash hell on you, you better get ready because hell's coming. You bet whatever he says he's going to do, he's going to do. And so this fanatical levels of integrity, and I think it's because most things in this world move on the speed of trust.
I was going to say, I think you could probably stumble and grit and grind and cut and cheat your way to $3 million. But to get 10, you got to have other people walking alongside you.
You got to have somebody else lifting with you,
That's
and
gonna
they don't
shake
lift
your
with
hand.
you if they don't trust you.
Yeah.
And trust is just it's a mammoth thing. And how you get trust? Well, you're unbelievably consistent. And, the word integrity comes from the same root word that we get the word integer from, or integral. Okay?
Yeah.
And so the word integer, if you're a math nerd, you know that an integer is a whole number. It has no fraction to it. It's not 1.5. It's not 1.25. It's a whole. It's 2, 1, 3. It's whole. And integrity is whole. The whole person. And it's not like, well, I don't cheat on my wife, but I do cheat on my taxes. You're just a freaking cheat. It's just a matter of time before it's revealed somewhere else. It's because it's that whole. And the interesting thing about this is, the reason I'm wearing this young man out is directly and indirectly, and people in our audience simultaneously, is that it's a choice. You can grow up being a cheat and just decide.
I'm done.
Characters in the Bible, Jacob.
I'm done.
Jacob did it.
Yeah.
He was known as the deceiver in the Bible. And then he became a man of integrity. You can just say, as of today, I have integrity. You can just decide.
Yeah.
You can't decide I'm beautiful. You can't decide to grow hair. I've tried. But you can just decide I'm going to have integrity.
I was going to tell the truth.
I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be a woman that can be counted on. And so once I got all that dialed into my head, you know what I pay on my taxes? Every stinking dime I owe. Exactly. We don't have a side set of books like we don't count the cash. We count the cash. The cash is part of the profit. It's taxable income in America. When you make a cash profit on something, you can hide it. But the law says, and my integrity says when I sign that tax return, that it's real. Now, I hate taxes, and I don't pay a dime more than I have to, and I spend money with accountants trying to legally use everything in the law to not pay it.
Right.
But once I know what's owed, if I ever get audited,
come on over.
Be a hot knife through butter, because it's all right there, baby. Yeah. I got nothing to hide.
And my guess is your heart rate runs a little lower. You
sleep
a little
at
better.
Night. You sleep at night. Well, the whole thing, I don't have to try to remember what I said, because whatever I said was what I said.
Right. Huh.
And it's like we were digging around in the warehouse. We closed up a warehouse this week, and they brought some of the old files over, and I found a file in there. I was going through them this morning with my assistant trying to figure out what to throw away, and there's a file from 1999 with hate mail. And
I can't wait to read that.
She gets all my hate mail anyway, because they mail it and it comes here, and so she's like, this is the same thing they say right now. They hate you for exactly the same reason that they did in 1999.
I think we need to read it on the show.
Oh, I do need to do. I'll bring the file down next week. We'll do that. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, a couple things in the news we need to comment on, John. Like last week, we talked about the government, basically states attorneys general, several of them banded together and sued Navient for what it may be one of the largest settlements in U.S. history. Navient being required to settle for $1.83 billion, and $995 million of that was in restitution. $1.7 billion was in student loans that had to be forgiven because they were fraudulently made or fraudulently managed. And we made a lot of fun with that and had a lot of fun with that, because it's absolutely a bizarre thing that Navient they got clocked. I mean, they got their clock cleaned. One of the largest, billions and billions and billions. Navient's forgiveness is now more than the federal government's forgiveness of student loans.
But they didn't do anything wrong.
But they didn't admit anything wrong. Now,
wrong.
Here's what's ridiculous, though, okay? Here's how the media, and I swear, some of you people, so you would think that the headline would read, Navient is a fraudulent scumbag
bunch
company
of predators, yes,
that ripped people off and the government took them down. Instead, CNN says more than 400,000 student loan borrowers will get debt relief from Navient.
What a gift.
Like Navient is just, they're a charitable organization. Thank you, CNN, for your misleading headline.
Oh my.
Now, when you read down in the CNN article, it actually does say that they were sued.
Yeah.
But, but the headline is like Navient is a charitable organization. Oh, we just thought we wanted to help because we're just those kind of people. NBC, Navient plans to cancel some student loan borrowers' loan debt. I wonder who qualifies.
Thanks,
That's
Navient.
the headline.
Thanks, Navient.
That's awesome, Navient. Isn't that great? They're just the best people. You're losing your mind out there, America. Why would NBC and CNN do that? You would think they would take the side of the consumer and go, crooks caught on tape. Your loan might be forgiven because they were sued into oblivion. Instead it's like, Navient is going to help you. It's like, jeez, man, come on, guys.
You finally get a real bad guy.
Yeah, and you don't even know what to do with them.
Yeah, exactly. You finally get a bad guy that you didn't make up. You got a real one, and then we let it just roll off.
And then this is just so there was a little a kids game on the internet, an app or I don't even know what it was. I think it was called Animal Farm.
Okay.
And you would build your little farm. Is that right, James? It's called Animal Farm. You remember what I'm talking about?
Animal Crossing is what we're hearing in
Animal
here.
Crossing or something like that. It was like this Empire thing or something. But you built your farm, and you tilled the farm, and you eventually and you made like pretend internet money that didn't exist. To buy little internet.
That's what it is. Farmville.
What? Farmville.
Yeah.
That's what it was called. And your kid could spend, and then it got to where you could actually go on the site and give real money to get pretend money to buy a pretend pig.
I make my kids go outside and work a real garden with their
But this
real
is like a virtual pig. It's not a pig.
Okay.
It's a virtual pig. It's a pretend pig. It doesn't really exist. It exists only on the internet. It's not. There's no oinking, no bacon going to happen. Okay, it's a virtual pig.
It's not real.
And you could build your whole farm out with this, and it was all pretend, and it was all virtual, and it was a kid's game. And so I run into this guy at an Entree Leadership event, and I'm like, it's him.
Oh, the guy that created the game?
No.
Oh, okay.
The kid's 19 years old, and his dad's with him, and his older brother, who's 26, is there. And I'm like, so what kind of a business y'all got? Well, we build apps for Farmville. And I'm like, you mean like add-on? Like you don't own Farmville? No, but we help people do better at their farm, their pretend farm that's not really there. And I'm like, really? And so how much did you make? He goes, well, I made $6 million last year on this app. My dad works for me, and so's my older brother. He's 19. And I'm going crazy. I thought it was the neatest thing that this young entrepreneur could figure out a way to sell an app on pigs that aren't really there.
And get real money for it.
And got real money, and kids are paying them serious money to get stuff.
What is happening?
Get stuff that's not really there. Well, then it started occurring to me that we now have an entire, probably 2 generations that are raised up with a screen in front of their face, and to them, what's on that screen is as real as the real thing. When you say virtual to someone my age, it means not real.
It's a projection of.
It's sort of. It's virtual. It's not. If I virtually made it, I didn't make it. Right. Okay. I didn't get there. You know what I'm saying? That's the literal definition.
I virtually have $1 million. No, you don't.
No, it means you don't.
You don't have $1 million.
And so that's means you have maybe a little bit less, but you're not quite.
That's
you're not right. It's not real. You're not there. And so when you say virtual now to this entire 2 generations, to them it's very real because they've lived their entire life in it. And so when Meta hits, and now we're selling NFTs, and now Walmart and Nike and Under Armour are selling NFTs, and now Walmart's setting up now for you to have your pretend house that's not really there. It's only on the internet, like your little Farmville. And if you want to buy pretend drapes to go in your pretend house, because that's what virtual means. It means pretend.
Not real.
It's not really there. There's nothing there. It's not real. It's virtual. But now Walmart is appears to be venturing into the metaverse with plans to create its own cryptocurrency and collection of NFTs. The big box retailer filed several new trademarks last month that indicates its intent to make and sell virtual goods. Well, let me help you with this. Virtual goods is an actual oxymoron. If it's a good, it's not virtual. And if it's virtual, it's not a good. This little coffee cup right here is an actual coffee cup. It actually exists.
Here's some of the goods, including virtual electronics, virtual home decorations, virtual toys, virtual sporting goods.
And so what we've got is the kids that grew up playing Farmville are now going to virtually furnish their virtual house at Walmart.
Oh my gosh! When something real happens,
while they didn't pay off their student loans, they don't even live in the real world. They virtually live. Because it's safer in there inside that little box than it is out here with the crazy humans.
With real drapes that fall off real windows.
Well, and try hanging real drapes.
Exactly.
They'll help you get a divorce. But yeah.
Exactly.
But these drapes virtually hang themselves.
What is happening? This is, unless you have to hire
Dr. Deloney, is there not a psychological disorder at play here?
Dude, we have...
I'm telling you, it's escape, man. It's escape into a fantasy world.
We are actually checking out of the challenges of our real world.
And going to a place where we can control the variables because we cannot do it in our real life.
That's exactly right.
And now we're spending money to do it.
Real dollars.
Real money for things that aren't really there. They're virtual.
And in case anyone's forgotten, we're in not real money to the tune of, what, $25 trillion?
Yeah, well, I guess
it's gotten so virtual that we're just moving it. None of it's real anymore.
But, your generation did that. Well, that's true. My generation did do that. Last 10 years, we've doubled the 10-year look-back thing that's going around? Yeah, you doubled the debt at the government level. That's another discussion, but oh my God,
I rarely speechless, Dave.
I'm not saying it's not okay to play video games, and if you want to spend some money on your video games or whatever, that's fine, but when you psychologically escape to another world to the point that you don't own real drapes, but you bought drapes in your pretend house, you got issues,
From
darling.
From an electronic Walmart.
Darling, it ain't real. Sounds like my aunt.
I don't even know what...
What do you say to this? It's virtual. It's virtually...
this is not real!
But it's so interesting because the kid made so much money. I'm so enthralled with it, but it's scary about what it means about this generation. George is the host of one of the Ramsey Network's productions called a podcast called Fine Print, and one of the very first episodes in the first season of Fine Print, George pretty much exposed TurboTax as lying when they said that they were letting you file your taxes for free. George, it appears you have stirred up a problem here.
I was a fortune teller, a prophet.
No, I think you stirred up something. I think someone at the Federal Trade Commission was listening to you.
That's right. The Federal Trade Commission clearly is a big fan of the fine print, and here's proof. Here's a headline. The FTC sues TurboTax to stop misleading ads for free tax prep software. Wow.
The Federal Trade Commission said Tuesday that Intuit's ubiquitous advertising claiming its TurboTax prep software is free to use is misleading. Kind of what George said. And has asked a federal court to order Intuit to stop disseminating the deceptive claim that consumers can file their taxes for free using TurboTax. According to the commission, the ads, some of which have consisted almost entirely of the word free, spoken repeatedly, mislead people into believing they can file their taxes for free with TurboTax. In fact, most tax filers can't use the company's free service because it's not available to millions of taxpayers, such as those who get a 1099 for work in the gig economy or who earn farm income. The agency said in a press release, the FTC said in 2020, approximately 2/3 of tax filers could not use TurboTax's free product. Thus, it's not free. I added that last part. Yeah, how this works, right?
Yep. And back when we did this fine print episode, this was back in March 2021, and we sat down, me and you, Dave, and we went through their Investor Day report. And it was their entire strategy about how they're going to turn their billion-dollar company into a bajillion-dollar company by becoming one of the biggest lenders out there. They're trying to sell you on debt. And so they lure you in with this promise of free. They end up charging you because you needed one extra form, and all of a sudden you're 3 hours in, and they go, well, that'll be $60 that you thought was free. And then later down the road, they use all of your data points to then sell you debt through all of their partners and providers down the line. So all in all, not a great company.
Turns out Intuit's TurboTax is, even when it's free, is basically a lead magnet for debt products. They're gathering your data to sell you debt. And that's what they're doing. They're using it to collect that.
Yeah.
In other words, you're being manipulated in addition to being misled.
You are the product. That's what it comes down to. So if you needed more ammo here, you can go listen to the whole fine print episode. It's a short one. It's about 20 minutes long or so. And me and Dave, we unpacked their strategy. We talked to some experts. We hear some stories about people who used TurboTax and got screwed. And the episode's called How TurboTax is Screwing You. So I feel like that was pretty apt.
I think you, I really do think somebody at the FTC was listening to you.
I hope they're fans. I mean, I don't want anything with the the acronym coming after us. The IRS, the FTC. These are scary people. I don't want them on my bad side.
The DEA.
The DEA. Why are they all 3 letters? Where is this coming from? The FBI.
The ATF.
Oh,
we don't
man.
need any of these people
Can
bothering
keep going.
us.
Yes. Run.
3-letter CIA. We don't want the CIA.
No,
no,
it keeps going. Wow.
3-letter federal acronyms. Not good.
No. And yeah, TurboTax has been hammered the last few years. ProPublica did a huge piece on them about misleading this. Even Hassan Minhaj, Patriot Act, did a whole episode about how TurboTax is hurting people through this exact thing. So I'm glad someone's finally going after them.
More importantly, George Camel did it on the fine print.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
That's the one America remembers.
Intuit said in a statement that it will vigorously challenge the FTC's complaint, claiming arguments are not credible.
I think millions of Americans would disagree with that. So
I think it's easy to say they're credible. So an appearance that I did on Fox television last week has been blown up and carved up to the use of left-wing crazies. And my Twitter feed is full of things like this. Prince Sleeper says, Dave Ramsey, you're actually a piece of blank LM laugh my off. Okay. And so basically I've got a bunch of juvenile delinquents all over my Twitter left-wingers because I've got about 2 on the national scene, I've got about 2, on the local scene, I've got about 3 more left-wing, uber progressive socialist reporters who detest everything I do and do their best to write up an article showing that I'm a knuckle-dragging primitive idiot. So all of this is because I said I hate the stimulus package, because if $1,600, $1,400, $600 changes your life, you're already screwed. You don't have a life. And that means that Dave Ramsey is an old white man that hates everybody, and Dave Ramsey is a piece of blank, and all because I told some snowflakes they couldn't get some free money, or shouldn't get some free money from the government. So let's go and walk through why I would say something like that. Is it because I'm really mean and angry and hate poor people? Absolutely not. It's absolutely ridiculous. On the contrary, I've spent my life helping people get out of debt and become wealthy, and have helped more people get out of debt and become wealthy probably than anybody living on the planet right now. We've got 20 million people listening to this show and podcast on a daily basis. I mean, add it up. So let's talk about why I would say that. Because I am at war with anything that is going to keep you, with anything or anyone that is going to keep you, the listener, you, the reader, from living in abundance. I want you to win financially. And I am sure, after 30 years of teaching this, that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. And so how you behave is most of why you are able to build a life of abundance, starting from nothing, which I have done twice. I started from nothing, became a millionaire by the time I was 28, lost everything because I was stupid, and then I moved on and did it again in spades. So the idea that your behaviors come from your beliefs is a big deal. What you believe about life causes you to behave in a certain way. If you believe that if you step on that ice and it cracks, you're going to fall through and drown in the pond, you're not going to step on the ice. What you believe affects your behaviors. It causes your behaviors. All of your behaviors come from your beliefs. So when you believe something that is false, that is a lie, especially when it comes to you're living your life in abundance, I'm going to call it out. Now, if you believe that the government giving you $600 is going to cause you to live in abundance, that's ridiculous. But if you believe that, then that gives you permission to sit on your thumb and not go about taking responsibility for your own life. Now, I don't mind if you take the $600. I'm not mad about that. What I am mad about is this idea that it's going to fix your life. It is not going to fix your life. You are going to fix your life. And until you take personal responsibility for your life, you're screwed. Is there systemic problems with wealth inequality? Not as much as the extreme left thinks, because they think it's so systemic and so overwhelming that you will not be able to win until wealth is redistributed. That has never been proven to be true. Not in the history of mankind. But if you believe that there are systemic problems that keep the little man from getting ahead, then you will not take responsibility for your life and go win, and that makes me angry. And so Chris Hogan and Ramsey Solutions did a book called Everyday Millionaires, where we did the largest study of millionaires, showing that 93% of America's millionaires started from nothing and received nothing to close to nothing, or received money after they were already millionaires. They did not become millionaires mathematically. In the largest airtight study ever done of millionaires in North America, they did not become millionaires mathematically because of an inheritance. So if you believe that the only way to become wealthy is to inherit money, therefore you don't take personal responsibility for your life, I'm going to yell at that for your own good. I'm already a multimillionaire. I'm okay. I'm not a grifter. I don't need your money. Don't buy my stuff if you're mad about this. It's fine with me. Don't listen to the show if you're mad about this. It's fine with me. Just don't sign up for stuff. I'm fine with that. But everything you're going to get from the Ramsey organization is going to be about you being a grown-up and taking personal responsibility for your life. If you're waiting on the union, if you're waiting on the government, if you're waiting on your big company, if you're waiting on anything other than you, the person in your mirror, to take responsibility, personal responsibility for your future, you are going to fail. You're going to fail because all of those things are going to let you down. If you believe that the only way to become wealthy is to inherit it, then you believe a lie, and your belief in that lie causes you to shut down and not stand up, leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home. And that pisses me off because it keeps you from winning. It keeps you from winning. If you believe that the government declaring a $15 minimum wage is going to change your life, very few people get rich on $15 an hour. You're going to have to do better than that, sweet cake. Suck it up, buttercup. You got to get up, leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home. Hustle and grind. It is your personal responsibility to go create a life of abundance. And when you think that someone else is going to cause you to become successful, that is the moment you have signed your death warrant to the success parade. You're not going to be in it. And so the lefties saying the government is here to save you is a lie. Now, if they send you some money, take it. It's one of the few good things they're ever going to do for you. That's fine. But you sitting on your thumb because you think the government is going to fix your life, you are screwed. Well, Ken, 2 years ago right now, people were locked down in their homes. We had to flatten the curve. You remember flattening the curve?
Well, I remember hearing about it, but it turns out you and I and some brave staff people kept coming in and putting out live shows, so I heard about it.
And we heard about, but the curve apparently had to be flattened.
Yes.
And then later, apparently,
2 weeks is what
we
they
had
told
to be
us.
masked, and then apparently we didn't.
Yeah.
And then apparently we all had to be vaccinated, and then apparently we didn't. And some people are still bathing in that fear porn that's out there.
Yes.
In the middle of all of that, there's a complete, we shut down the American economy.
Yes.
For, 60 to 90 days.
Yes.
And we're now experiencing inflation as a result of that lack of production creating shortages, and now an zealous retail thrive, driving demand way high and supply still out of kilter. 2 years later, we're trying to recover from the flattening of the curve. But one of the things I didn't know until I picked up this from NBC News this week, they're calling the PPP plan the biggest fraud in a generation, the looting of the COVID relief plan.
Yeah.
Remember PPP?
Oh, yeah.
Where businesses were not going to, the economy was going to collapse if the government didn't step in.
Right.
Just like we were all going to die.
Caused the collapse.
We were all going to die if we didn't flatten the curve.
Right.
And the economy was going to collapse, and everybody was scared, and everybody's running around screaming and screeching at the top of their lungs. And so the government lines up. This just blows my mind. 90. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Let's just say, okay. They bought Lamborghinis, they bought Ferraris and Bentleys. Here's the article. And Teslas, of course, lots of Teslas. Many who participated in what prosecutors are calling the largest fraud in U.S. history, the theft of hundreds of billions of dollars in taxpayer money intended to help those harmed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Mm-hmm. Instead, these fraudsters came in and couldn't resist purchasing luxury automobiles, mansions, private jet flights, and swanky vacations. They came into the riches by participating in what experts say is the theft of as much as $80 billion. $80 billion of the PPP was fraudulent use and theft of the $800 billion that was handed out in the COVID relief plan known as the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. That's on top of the $90 billion to $400 billion believed to have been stolen from the other $900 billion under the COVID unemployment relief program.
Right.
So we've got $800 billion and $900 billion we dumped into saving the world.
Well, we have a theme, Dave. So what happens is when government says they're going to come in to save the day, government doesn't operate efficiently or effectively. And what we had was a Small Business Administration on the first half of this, the PPP, saying, hey, write us a letter. This is about as fundamental as it was, and tell us why you need it. So what do these people do? These scumbags, they go, let's take advantage of the U.S. government because they're a bunch of morons, and we're going to get money. And they got it.
Well,
and the government just said, here's a check, here's a check, here's a check, here's a check, because they wanted to save the day.
Exactly. Well, and the Trump administration truly believed, and they were screwed in the head, that they had to get this money plugged into the economy fast to offset the drop, to offset the quarantine.
Right.
And when you go at that rate of speed, you don't have any way to verify and put in place.
That's correct.
And you drop trillions and trillions of dollars out there, and now we're finding out that well over 10% of it,
unbelievable,
north of $500 billion now, went to people who did not have an unemployment problem and did not even qualify for PPP, because all they did was say, sign this document and check here that you really are due this money.
Right.
They didn't even look.
No.
Yeah, I have 46 employees. I happen to work out of my basement and have no employees. Right. But I have 46 employees, and here's the name of my company. People were going to state records and pulling company names off of state records and filing under that with false addresses, basically creating a form of identity theft, and getting checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars sent to them to keep their business open, and they didn't even have a business.
Yeah, this is what happens when leaders lead from desperation.
Desperation and fear.
It's exactly what
panic.
happens.
It was
Sheer panic.
It was full on panic.
Right.
And when people are panicking, they're not leaders.
That's correct.
And I don't care if you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're a lefty, you're a masker, you're a righty, you're an anti-masker, you're a vaxxer, or you're an anti-vaxxer. If you're in a full-on panic, you're straight up stupid.
That's right. And so what was happening is the government was trying to give the illusion of we're in control, we got you, and the fact of the matter is they didn't, and this is taxpayer dollars. Let's bring this back to when you hear numbers like that, I want to make sure you folks catch this, because those numbers are so big it kind of feels like, oh, that's just so. That's your money. That is taxpayer dollars being fraudulently spent, and all because leaders are trying to give the illusion that they can solve your problems. And by the way, they're the source of the shutdown, where the governors and the senators, Trump, all of them, they all signed on to this shutdown, and it broke businesses. And in their desire to help the businesses they broke, they ended up wasting money. And I got to tell you something. It ought to be a wake-up call to the American
Somebody
people.
ought to stop and go, hey,
Yeah.
this whole thing was off.
Yeah, and let's
I mean,
stop blindly
this is like
trusting
some
people.
kind of bad movie right here.
Oh, yeah.
But $500 billion paid out to people that didn't even own businesses or that weren't even unemployed in the name of panic brought on by false sets of assumptions about numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, it just is. It's a case study in leadership not leading, and the nanny state run amok.
It's true.
And so the people are screaming, you have to take care of us because now you made us locked us in our house and now you have to feed us.
Yeah.
And, man, you people, I'm telling you, if you ever allow your government to do this to you again, you're a bunch of freaking sheep. Because the results of this are going to ripple through our economy for a decade. $500 million.
And here's the deal. You can do something about
$500 billion. Yeah,
you know what you can do?
Vote.
Go vote. Anybody that was a party to
From
this
a
kind of
school
junk,
board all the
send
way
them
to
home.
a governor, to a senator, to a president. You can vote.
Send them home.
Good God. So George, the producer, James, just handed us an article.
It's juicy. It's a juicy one.
Well, okay. This pisses me off, all right, because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, brought to you by Elizabeth Warren, that's where it came from, was put in place to protect the consumer. They were put in charge of a piece of legislation that's been in place for 30 or 40 years called the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. There's federal law that dictates how collectors have to behave, or they're in violation of federal law when they're trying to collect from you. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is in charge of the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act regulations and fines, and basically protecting the consumer. So what did they do under this administration? Decided to help out the collectors instead of the consumer. So they just, new rules approved by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that took effect, this is from NPR, that took effect on Tuesday, dictate how collection agencies can email or text people as well as message them on social media to collect unpaid debts. So now they can hassle you on Twitter, your Facebook account, text you, and email you. What part of protection at the Bureau did they not get?
They just unleashed the hounds on the internet.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You need to read the title of the place you work. Good God.
I thought it was bad enough when my mom joined Facebook. And now the collectors are on there too. The whole gang. You can't stop.
Everyone's watching you, George. You know, a way to fix this is don't be on Facebook.
Good luck. Well, it's easier now. Everyone's going, they're on Instagram, TikTok.
You have to have something like I've got where I pay people to do this stuff because I can't stand it.
But this is what's crazy. It says they can attempt to join your network by sending you a friend request, and they must give you the option to opt out of being contacted online, and any messages they send do have to be private. So they're not going to go posting on your public page, Dave. Don't worry.
Yeah, that would be a violation of Privacy Act, a whole nother act. The rules are really disappointing and concerning in a number of ways, says April Newhoff, a staff attorney for the National Consumer Law Center. Hello, April. That's an understatement. Disappointing? No, this is just ridiculous. This is what we in the South call, we just let the fox in the hen house.
That's a good saying. I like that one. Here's what's crazy.
Chomp, chomp.
We're going to see so much spam come out of this. It says allowing debt collectors to email, text, and use social media to contact consumers also gives criminals a new avenue to try to swindle people out of their money, a practice Knuhoff expects to increase in the future.
All right, I get a bunch of crap on my Apple phone updates that I don't want. and they force it on me, and I have to go in and turn it off or turn it on, and so that people aren't watching me, and all this other bull crap, all these things they do with this technology. I'm getting just paranoid. But they're going to have to put a thing on the Apple phone.
Oh, yeah.
Block collector text. Select on or off. And that maybe, there you go. That'll work. So somebody just showed me the day. I'm so technology stupid. You're going to look at me because I'm stupid. But yeah, you can turn off, the phone doesn't ring if it's an unrecognized number, because the 73,000 calls I get a year on my warranty for my car that I need to buy, which is hilarious. You're calling Dave Ramsey's phone. I mean, come on. But yeah, I mean, all those are blocked now, and so automatically it doesn't ring my phone. So we're going to have that selection for collectors.
Oh, yeah.
Apple's going to have to protect us because the Protection Bureau won't protect us.
Oh, boy. And the weird thing about sliding into the DMs here on your Instagram account, if the only people sliding into the DMs are the collectors, that's a sad life. We got to pay off this debt. Get rid of it. Leave them on red. You can't ghost these people. They're going to be after you. That sums it up.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, click here for the next one, where you're going to hear stories of the wealthiest celebrities getting caught in the act of outrageous generosity.